So today's tutorial has nothing to do with the paintbrush and everything to do with needle felting. And I'm going to show you how to needle felt a donut next. If you're new here, my name is Paige and I'm the Chief Pixel Pusher and Paintbrusher over at Gumption. And today we're not doing either of those things. We are doing needle felting and I think you'll enjoy it. Today's video is a little bit longer than my usual, but if you hang in there with me by the end, you should be able to create your own donut with me. And here are just a few varieties of donuts and things that you can needle felt. Now, I've been interested in needle felting for quite a long time, and I finally just decided to look into what it took to needle felt. And it was easier and less expensive than I initially thought it would be. So I just dove right in and am no expert by any means, but sure had a lot of fun with it, and I hope that you will too. Join me and we'll make some donuts together. When I decided to explore needle felting, I wanted to get just a simple kit that I could start with, and I found this kit on Amazon. This is really great because this is an Idaho company, and if you go to their website directly, they have lots of supplies for this kind of thing. When you start needle felting, you're going to need just a few items to get started. So this is what's called roving. This is unspun wool, and you're going to need that in order to create these little shapes. You'll also need felting needles. And so this kit comes with 6 needles in different sizes. So this is what a roving needle looks like. And they come in different gauges. The higher numbers are smaller needles. So I've started using the orange one to get started, and then I move down to the smaller needles as I get my wool tighter. So you're going to need needles. And I can tell you, I went to Hobby Lobby and got this pad because I thought this would work, but these needles are really big. So I would really recommend just going straight for the kit and not even worrying about what you might find there at Hobby Lobby or your local store. This kit also comes with leather thimbles, and I can tell you, you're going to want these because your thumbs and your forefinger are going to pay a price if you miss the wool and you hit your finger. They're very sharp, barbed needles. So you don't want that to happen. So this is a great kit. I'm not paid or anything by this company. I've just found that it was really a nice kit to use. And then you're also going to need a felting pad, which you can see where I felted this blue wool here. Could probably pull some of this off. But you're going to use a felting pad to create these donuts. So needles, felting pad, thimbles, and roving. All right, so now you know the basics. Let's get started. Okay, so this is what roving looks like. You can buy this usually at a hobby store. Locally, I was only able to find this over at Hobby Lobby. But you can see you have a variety of colors that this wool is dyed. If you're looking for a better deal, I'd probably order from a mill, a wool mill, directly if you can find one. I know that this desertbreeze.com, they're here in Idaho and they have lots of wool there, and I think you can get it more wool for a better price if you do it that way. So first, I've got to select the colors for what I'm going to make. And I think I'm going to make another donut, but with white icing with stripes. So I'm going to show you how to do that here. One thing that you can do is use white roving for a filler, and then use colored roving over the top of it when you get the shape that you want to color it, so you're not using all your colored roving. So as I have learned to do it, you just separate your roving a little bit and you kind of pull it off in tufts. So I'm going to kind of do this here. I don't need to start with a ton of roving. So I have it in a box that I just place it in, and it keeps it all nice and clean and separate. So I'm getting out my roving pad. This can be a bit of an issue if you are using a wool pad instead of a styrofoam pad, is that the wool can kind of collect on your pad here, and as you are felting, it can wind up on your project. So mostly I haven't minded because I've been using these light cream colors and such to felt, but here, you know, I don't want to get blue all over my light colored donut. So I'm going to take my white roving fabric that I separated in tufts, and I'm going to just kind of smooth it out here. I'm going to use a brush or a round object so I can get the hole here, because I'm just going to get the base shape. So I'm kind of just going to use this as a little bit of a guide. Put on my thimbles, and I'm just going to kind of poke into the wool to see if I can get it to stick together. So with these donuts, I'm constantly moving them around, but to start, I'm just going to stitch into them, kind of poke into them. So it will stick to your pad here, but that's not a big deal. You just pick it out of the wool and you get a different spot. Careful to not get your fingers. And this needle has barbs on it, so when you push your needle into the roving, it condenses it and it connects it together. Now it takes a lot of this action to form a little donut, but this project is really rewarding because you don't have to spend hours and hours doing it, and you can do it while you're on the telephone or while you're watching TV in the evening. You want to make sure that you're going straight up and down with your needle or you're going to break it. You also don't want to poke yourself either. So I constantly have to remind myself to move my middle finger out of the way because it is not protected. And ultimately you want to have basically even form all the way around here with your wool. We'll continually add more wool to it, but if you see a spot that's heavier than another side, you'll want to add wool to that. And it doesn't have to be a lot, as you can see. Condense that down. And we just approach it the same way. We just take the needle and tack it in there. Can really move fibers out of the way, move them around, and shape it. It's really like fiber sculpture in my mind. So now that I added that extra on that side, I have another side that's a little bit lighter. Just going to add this to the other side. Tack it in there. Takes quite a bit of this business to get this thing solidly shaped. So just know that. every few moments I would remove your donut shape from your felting pad. And I kind of do this action where I hold the donut this way, and then I am tacking down these loose fibers in the center. Because we don't want a flat donut, we want it to be more formed like a donut. It starts out kind of flat, but as we continue to work it, it becomes more rounded. You just keep doing this. And it just keeps pushing those fibers together. Now this guy really, to keep putting my finger in the center there so we can have a clear, defined center point. I just kind of scooch in these fibers and tack them down a little bit. Right now I'm kind of focusing on the center a little bit. Just keep moving it around so you can see where we're at here. I definitely need to add more roving to this, but I'm trying to really kind of perfect this shape just a little bit before I add too much. You can also tap in, especially when this is a little bit more condensed and harder. You can tap in from the top, but you want to be really careful. It's just really nice to be able to use the pad. You can turn it over and get it from all sides. Hopefully you can see that kind of. This is definitely a rewarding craft because it doesn't take long to start being able to shape something. And I think it's only limited to what your imagination is limited to, so. Okay, so I think it's safe now to add a little bit more roving because we have a narrow side here that we can add some more. You can wrap around some wool if you want to on that side. Just get it tacked in there. Tack in the inside a little bit. And this, you can kind of see what the needles look like here. They have barbs on them. Now, if you really want to get busy with it, you can use 2 needles. I have done this recently where you just have your two needles together. They also make pens that have 3 needles in them at a time, but I kind of don't mind doing these by hand. Okay, so it's time for more roving and to really start building up this into this shape. So I'm going to add more roving to this guy. You can kind of swirl it around like this or wrap it around your donut. By forming this in the center and pushing down on it, it really helps create this rounded shape. And so you just want to keep working it and keep adding more roving and just keep building up on the shape. So I think I'm going to start adding a little bit of color because actually I think I'm going to make this a chocolate. So this is really nice roving from Desert Breeze. There's definitely a difference in the feel. So I'm just going to separate this out a little bit and pull off. This would be great for an animal, like a little bunny rabbit or something. That's probably more than I need. Okay, so we have our core here, and we can just keep adding roving to it to give it some color. And you can separate these out even more. You could wrap it around here if you want, or just do it on top of our shape. I kind of like the idea of wrapping it around a little bit here so you can kind of get both sides. You just have to tack it in a couple places. Here is another technique that I've used. It's just wrapping this and kind of putting it in that donut shape. If you want to create swirls in your donuts, these might even be too long, but in the end it won't matter. And since I'm only tacking in here, I'm not wearing my thimbles, but I really will be here once I get going. Okay, so this, one more over here, and if you need to, you can double up your roving. Okay, so we've lost our center a little bit, but we don't need to be worried about that. So you can run your brush through if that helps to give you your center back. Okay, let's go after it. And as I'm poking in the top here, I'm pretty careful. I'm moving pretty slow. And I don't even have to go in that deep. And you can be strategic. You can move your fibers around and poke them down where you see they're sticking up. So now I might move to my next smaller needle. You can just kind of feel the difference when you are felting when you move to a smaller needle, because we've broken down these fibers quite a bit with the big needle. So you can see this is pretty condensed and it's really starting to take shape. Sometimes I rub it in my hands just to kind of heat that up and smooth it out a little. And so we're starting to take shape. Now we can kind of layer on the top more. I may want to add a little bit more roving here because it might fill out that side just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to rub this in my hands a little bit. Now you could leave this as a cake donut. Kind of compare it. You can see it's not quite as thick as these other donuts, which I have more roving to add, but you could leave it like this and it could just be a great little cake donut. But we are going to put icing on it and we're going to continue building this up. So for the icing, I think I'm going to use this off-white color. I'm just going to kind of break it up a little bit. Sometimes your roving will have little bits in it. You can just take them out. Usually that's from cleaning them, I think. And you can double this up, or you can run the whole length of it here. So I'm just going to tack it in place here. A couple spots. Kind of move it around. I'm still trying to make sure I keep my donut hole visible. We'll keep moving this around. Now I think kids would really love this activity, but because these needles are so sharp, I don't know if I would recommend it. Okay, so I need a little bit more of this. So I'm going to double up this little piece here. Place it. Like I said, you can move this out of the way a little bit with your needle and push it down. Kind of move it around where you want it. So I still want more of this light color. So I'm just going to keep adding it in thin little groups here. Because it's really heavy over on this side, but we need a little bit more over here. Okay, so one thing that you should note is as you push this through, if you go all the way through to the pad, it's going to take some of those fibers and push them towards the back. So sometimes I will have to put a little bit more of the back roving here on, or you just are kind of not going as deep as you are felting this. So we have our chocolate donut with white frosting. Now we're going to make it a little extra. So we're not going to need this much orange. We're going to create some icing that goes across here. So I'm just going to try to spread this out a little bit. Ooh, see if I can make it kind of even. So I'm going to twist this up and then I'm going to hold it here. And tack it in there. So you can clip this. You can also fold it over if you want, because once you start working this kind of small, some of this can disappear a little bit. Okay, so I couldn't find my other scissors, but I'm going to use my embroidery scissors here to just clip off this excess. And then I'm just going to repeat this process and continue to felt that in there so it stays in place. All right, there we go. There is our finished donut. You can do all kinds of things, different kinds of things for donuts. As you can see, I even made bacon for this bar. Now you know how to needle felt a donut. If you decide that you want to take up needle felting or give it a try, and you make some donuts, copy me on Instagram at I have Gumption and share your needle felted donuts with me. I would love to see them. This is an activity you can do while you're watching television. You just put this pad on your lap and you go for it. And it's a great way to create something small that's fun and worthwhile. The great thing about these needle felted items is that you can stick your needles in them if you do embroidery or sewing. I have a hoop holder, and I can just slip this around one of the screws and put my needles in there if I need to do that. I'm also really interested in felting some earring donuts, so I'm going to be doing that as well. If you liked this video and you learned something new and you got something out of it and you made it this far, thanks for hanging in there with me. I would love to see your donuts that you create, and you can tag me at I have Gumption on Instagram. I would love, love, love to see them. I appreciate you being here, and I wish you a very happy Thanksgiving, and stay creative out there. Until next time, I will see you later.